Jimmy Kimmel hasn't been locked up yet. We are, after all, only about 9 months into this regime. But already he's not even the first comedian that's lost his job for committing, again, the unforgivable sin of mocking the president, of doing the main thing a late night person is supposed to do. And so all these companies that put out the show, not actually ABC, are putting out these statements. Andrew Alford's, the president of Nexstar, says his comments are offensive and insensitive at a critical time in our national political discourse. It is a critical time in our national political discourse. It is a critical time in no small part because the right is using it to wage culture warfare, to try to do their cancel culture. And the idea that I'll even lump myself in with Jimmy Kimmel. And I'll remind you, by the way, both Stephen Colbert and Jimmy Kimmel, they're not commies. They're straight down the middle centrist Democrats or whatever. And even they are offending the delicate sensibilities of the right. They're also still allowed to express themselves. It is not offensive to say that the right doesn't really care about the identity of the shooter as long as it's not one of them. That is an objective fact. It is not offensive to mock Donald Trump when what he did was so obviously ridiculous. If you truly care about Charlie Kirk, you should be offended by what Donald Trump said. How could he possibly act like that? And then go to the Yankees game and he's dancing and he's having so much fun. That is offensive, not what Jimmy Kimmel said. And Jimmy Kimmel's not even on your side of the aisle. Why do you care so much about what some guy you don't even watch says? You should care about the guy that you worship the ground that he walks on. And yet you have less expectation for your dear leader than you do for a comedian that you don't even watch. In any event, we should remind you, as all of this is going on, that the cover story for this cancellation is that Jimmy Kimmel said a thing and he's being fired. That's not what is happening at all. That's the cover story. That's the wrapping paper. But the present is fascism and corruption. It's authoritarianism. That's what's going on. We know that both Disney and Nexstar, the two companies most integrally involved in this, including Sinclair, and we'll talk about them, have FCC business ahead of them. Disney is seeking regulatory approval for ESPN's acquisition of the NFL network. Nexstar needs the Trump administration's go-ahead to complete its $6.2 billion purchase of broadcast rival Tegna. So Disney and Nexstar are in a very similar position that Colbert's employer was in. All of them have these big business things that they need the okay of the Trump administration for, and they know that the Trump administration is corrupt and petty enough to deny it, and so they're giving in to fascism because it's in their financial interest to do so in this particular case. And we know this is not speculation like it normally is. This is not me hypothesizing about what led to this. This is what the sources in the room say happened. In the hours leading up to the decision to pull Kimmel, two sources familiar with the matter say senior executives at ABC, its owner Disney, and affiliates convened emergency meetings to figure out how to minimize the damage. Multiple execs felt that Kimmel had not actually said anything over the line, but the threat of Trump administration retaliation loomed. They were pissing themselves all day. That's a direct quote. And so they did not believe that what he said went beyond the line. They were not getting pressure from their actual viewers to pull him. This was purely, oh dear God, our authoritarian leader might well either reject our bid to purchase this company, might pull our broadcast license, whatever, might pull us into Congress to testify. So we have to sacrifice Jimmy Kimmel on the altar of the dear leader. And that is what they did. And specifically, Bob Iger, CEO of Disney, Dana Walden, the television chief, apparently individually made the call. So if you want to know who you should be mad at, first of all, that list is long, but the CEO of Disney is undoubtedly on that list. He made the call. He decided to bow down. And if you want to look into the history of Disney, maybe this is in keeping, with the ideology of the guy who set it up. But in any event, Nexstar has also recently praised the Trump administration because, again, you need to when you have a corrupt authoritarian leader in charge, saying the initiatives being pursued by the Trump administration offer local broadcasters the opportunity to expand reach, level the playing field, and compete more effectively with the big tech and legacy big media companies that have unchecked reach and vast financial resources. Trump is just trying to help the little guy out. Is that what's going on? Do you know what Nexstar is trying to do? Nexstar is trying to acquire the ability to do more local TV stations. They want to control 265 local TV stations across 44 states. That would represent about 80% of American households, which is twice the current limit of what is allowed. Local news. They want to control 80% of the market. Yeah, we desperately need more reach. I mean, there's all these titans that are just beating us. Oh, thank God Trump is a champion for the little guy. Yeah, no, this is a massive business decision. And we're gonna talk about Sinclair. There's some ideology in there too, but you should be absolutely PO'd at all these companies. And if you want to engage in a boycott of them, I think they are begging for you to boycott them in the same way that people were calling for after Colbert. And honestly, get ready for the same boycotts for Seth Meyers and Jimmy Fallon and Jon Stewart and John Oliver as well, because it is never gonna be enough for these pathetic little fascist babies, these little whiners. They will not stop until every single person who dares to do anything other than lick Donald Trump's swollen cankles is taken off of the air. And so if I were those other people, I would start doing some brainstorming about your next steps, about whether you're gonna set up a podcast or a YouTube show or something like that. Because unfortunately, as long as you work for a major corporation that either does or might soon have business before the Trump administration, they are always going to choose their bottom line over their commitment to supposed values of free speech or free expression or whatever. Sinclair Broadcasting is one of the companies that is shutting down Jimmy Kimmel, putting pressure on Disney and ABC to never bring him back. And if you're familiar with Sinclair, maybe you've watched John Oliver's episode on it, they're incredibly conservative and don't have much respect historically for freedom of speech, but they are going way beyond that now. Way beyond that in such an insulting manner that I think this is gonna very much backfire on them. So they own 30 ABC affiliates across the United States. And so they joined that other company, Nexstar, in saying, we're not gonna broadcast Jimmy Kimmel for the foreseeable future. Right now, they're planning to air a Charlie Kirk remembrance special on Friday in Kimmel's usual time slot. And regardless, it said it won't air Jimmy Kimmel again until certain conditions were met. Among other things, those conditions include the demand that Kimmel apologize to the Kirk family, who, it should be noted, Kimmel did not joke about, and make an unspecified donation to their organizations. And to be clear, in other reporting it says, they demand that Jimmy Kimmel make a significant contribution, not only to Turning Point USA, a conservative organization pushing for all sorts of stuff that is directly opposed to Jimmy Kimmel's own values and the values of most people watching this, most reasonable people, I would say. But also, he has to pay that family. He never joked about the family. He never joked about Charlie Kirk. He mocked the MAGA movement. He mocked Donald Trump for pretending to grieve when he clearly can't even keep it up for a couple minutes. They're saying you have to cut a check to the Kirk family. They are going to extort a comedian to individually pay conservatives so that he can be given his job back. Maybe not even then. God only knows what else. You have to apologize. We want you to grovel, comedian. You think you live in a free country? You think you have freedom of speech? No, you dish out millions of dollars to advance political interests that you find to be reprehensible, and maybe we'll let you on the air again. But if we ever do let you on the air, let's be very clear. You better keep politics as far as possible away from anything you say. You think if Jimmy Kimmel were to be brought back right now, and that still could be possible, why would he come back? Does anybody think that he would feel free? Does anyone think that he would feel that ABC or Disney would have his back the next time he dares to critique the powerful, the rich, donors maybe, politicians? I mean, how dare he? He's already temporarily gotten fired for being willing to do that. Does anyone think that they wouldn't do it again? Look, Jimmy Kimmel has to think about far more than just himself. Anytime a show like this gets canceled or something, we often think it's about that person making a decision. Jimmy Kimmel's fired. Let's be clear. It is not just Jimmy Kimmel that's fired. His show has about 200 employees. That is possibly 200 families whose lives have been upended in this right-wing culture war, this cancel culture that we're seeing. And so look, if he ends up wanting to cut the check or do the apology to save the hundreds of families that rely on his job, then I'm not gonna get down on him. I don't wanna see it, but I'm not gonna get mad at him if he does do it. But these people, I mean, Sinclair, they are just active participants in fascism here. They know exactly what they're doing. They know who it benefits. And this is not gonna be the end of it, not for Jimmy Kimmel, not for any other broadcaster. Everyone with a platform right now needs to stop and think very seriously about the time we're in and which side of history they wanna be on. And some of you, maybe all of you, will have to risk your jobs and your livelihood. But I would argue that what is up for grabs, the stakes in all this are so much more significant than just one person's reach, one person's platform. Do not back off. Don't yield, man, in the words of Mike Johnson. Don't give in either to backing off of criticism, backing off of the terminology. It was fascism before this horrific event. It's fascism right now. Trump is an authoritarian ruler. Trump wants to be a dictator. And I don't care if that hurts his feelings. I don't care if this tiny orange painted, foundation caked, bruised scrotum's feeling gets hurt over this. We're gonna continue to call it like it is. And I hope that Jimmy Kimmel does. I hope that Seth Meyers comes out and sets fire to the Trump administration tonight. I hope John Oliver devotes every second of his program this week to this cancel culture. I hope Jimmy Fallon, well, he's not gonna do anything. Let's be very clear about that. Jimmy Fallon ain't gonna swing for the fences on this one, but maybe he'll surprise me. Maybe he'll do a song, a parody song or something. Every one of us needs to decide which side we want to be on. And if you choose wrong, then people should come for them. You should criticize them, boycott them, whatever, because the stakes are as high as they could possibly be.